Hiya, I'm the Employer Partner Manager at NowSkills. My name's Sebastian Fitzharris.
And I'm Managing Director, NowSkills, Daniel Wells.
So, this particular podcast is aimed at employers looking at utilising apprenticeships. So I want to give you a bit of a run over. First of all, the biggest one everyone wants to know, the cost, the training, everything around that. So, first of all, in terms of the cost, it all depends whether you are a non-levy or a levy employer. I'd like to explain the difference, please, Danny?
Yep, so apprenticeship levy, if you're a larger employer, typically payroll, I think over 3 million, you pay into a special levy for apprenticeships. It goes into like a special digital service. The government adds a little bit to it. I think they top it up by 10%, but you can only currently spend that on apprenticeship training and learning. So if you are a larger employer, levy paying, that money's there. You know, make use of it. Make sure you're spending it.
You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, you do.
And then if you are a non-levy employer, the government will fund apprenticeships, so the training, and our apprenticeship specifically in IT, data and digital marketing range between 10 and 18 grand. That doesn't mean they physically give you that. Be nice if they did, but they cover the cost of the training for anyone who's 16 to 21. So that's either anyone you hire, which we don't charge anything for the recruitment process. We're regulated by Ofsted. We are a training provider. We're not a recruitment agency. And even if you wanted to use it for upskilling and CPD in-house, anyone 16 to 21, again, don't pay a penny towards it. Now, if they are over that 21 threshold, you would have to pay 5% contribution, which for us, the minimum of that would be £500. You could pay that £50 a month over 10 months. Or the maximum, 18 grand, it'd be £900 contribution, £90 over 10 months. Or there are even options now as part of the levy network, depending what region you're in, to arrange a levy transfer. Because some of these massive companies, when they've got well over £3 million payroll, it's basically impossible to spend all the apprenticeship levy, and they would rather a non-levy employer spend it than give it back to the government.
Yeah, so sometimes they'll put it into a levy sharing service, and then they can invest it then in their own supply chain. So all the businesses that they might work with, they want to encourage them to take apprentices. So, yeah.
Now, I want to go into the why you'd either hire or you'd upskill for apprenticeship. So for me, in my position at NowSkills, I'm the one who would look for an apprentice. So we'd screen them for you, we'd put ads up for you for free, we would prep the candidates for you for the interview. There's no cost, as I've said, to the recruitment process, and we'd tailor the candidates to your need. For example, with marketing, if they ever wanted someone who's already got Photoshop experience, that's what they get. We say the apprenticeship minimum wage is regardless of age, so whether they're 16 or whether they are 50, it doesn't matter. Anyone can be paid the apprenticeship minimum wage. And what we tend to find a lot of employers do is give the apprentices something to work towards. So a lot of my employer partners tend to offer like a quarterly review. So cause you got to remember, they spend a lot of the first 6 months doing a lot of training, and the training with us tends to be between 3 and 5 days per week in a row on Zoom for the first 6 months. Now, in terms of upskilling, obviously at NowSkills we do tend to do a lot of upskilling. So from your perspective, the managing director, why do you do it?
Yeah, so upskilling or L&D, learning and development, or CPD, called various different things. You've got to look at where you are as a business and where you want to get to. A big part of it is the digital transformation. So, you know, so much more, particularly with AI, you know, a lot of upskilling and retraining is needed. We also look at, there's a big productivity problem in the UK. I think that's well known by businesses. The biggest reason that I always see was the same problem 20 years ago, is that businesses just don't spend enough on training their staff when we compare to France or Germany. So if you've got this, if you are a levy paying employer, for example, you've got this money to be spending on learning and development and training, it makes sense to use it, and then you'll get that return on investment from improved productivity. And you've also got other features and aspects. So if you're showing that you invest in your staff through apprentices, you're likely to have reported that more staff are more likely to be retained, particularly the apprentices themselves are likely to be more loyal to you as an employer because you've invested in them.
It's not even just you've invested time,
yeah,
because obviously there's a lot of the mentorship that goes through having an apprentice, and as far as the person is aware you've put them through, although you've not physically paid 18 grand for someone to go through it, if between 10 and 18 grand worth of training, any employer should say it's a massive compliment to have that invested into them.
I think as well, if you've got particularly a younger person, they're a lot more savvy when it comes to things digital. So if you bring in that, and I know apprentices can be at any age, but if you're bringing in a younger person into the team around them can learn from what they do. And then I think the other benefit that you get is actually if you have someone that is mentoring the apprentice, they can get job satisfaction from doing something a bit different in their role. So actually it might be the first time they've done mentoring, so they're actually learning new skills to be a mentor. So, it gives you a bit more variety in your job, and people report that, and that gives them job satisfaction. And you've got also that feeling actually you're sharing your skills, your knowledge with someone new in the role. So that can be quite rewarding to you as well.
100%, because that's the thing. It doesn't, for example, with marketers, it doesn't have to be the marketing manager who's mentoring. It could be the marketing exec, social media exec. It's giving extra responsibilities, and a lot of the time when they are in their more junior roles, they can tend to click a bit more with the apprentices because they might be of a similar age range, or it's all dependent on the role. And I know we're focusing on digital a lot because we are a digital apprenticeship provider, but it is the same throughout when it comes to the cost, the funding, the training, and the benefits to anyone going through an apprenticeship. Now, one of the biggest aspects that everyone is looking at the moment of digital apprenticeships, everyone's trying to get more tech savvy. When it comes to any sort of office role, data's everywhere. In most businesses, data's everywhere. And there's a lot of people, there's still quite a lot of businesses where there's a lot of stuff in filing cabinets. All you need is that one apprentice, person who's loving data, sat there at a desk all day, digitalising it all for you, using Excel, Power BI, Tableau.
Yeah. And then the benefit is that the business can use what that apprentice does to really understand what's happening in the business, where things might be made more efficient or, improved, made better.
All starts with the data. It supports the sales function, marketing, operations. That's why you can have a data person in every department, and it's going to bring a benefit. Because if you don't know why you wanted to hit a certain market, the marketing is not going to work.
And I think the other aspect as well is if you're busy day to day running a business, you've got that extra person coming in. If you're hiring them, they'll do some of those tasks that you probably thought, well, they're not my priority to get sorted. But now I have an apprentice and we need to invest and support them and train them gradually into the role. They can perhaps look at some of the tasks that you've been putting off or take workload from team members, so then you can look at tasks that need more attention from yourself.
One of the big things as well with everything digital is, especially when it comes from a marketing perspective, young people have grown up around social media. So I actually had a conversation with one of my employers today, who's a marketing agency. You want to know anything about SEO, web development, ad campaigns, PPC, help you out every day of the week. When it comes to stuff like TikTok, because it's a different generational thing, they haven't necessarily got that skill set. When I'm sending them a 16-year-old apprentice who grew up with TikTok, they know all the trends, they've already got thousands of followers. It's like, this is a great addition to the team. And to have that as a 16-year-old, it's unheard of in a lot of other professions where a 16-year-old could make such a big impact to a business that is already, obviously,
you have to look at that mentor relationship as, yes, you're there to support the apprentice, but actually as a mentor, you can gain from them as well. So you've got to think of it as a two-way relationship, having an apprentice and a mentor in a business. And
in terms of what we expect from a mentor, on an employer perspective, what would you say, because obviously you've mentored many apprentices yourself as well, what would you say you expect from a mentor with any apprentice, regardless of the industry, I suppose?
Ultimately, as a provider, we'll work really closely to make sure it's a success, but things that you can be doing day to day or week to week as a mentor, checking apprentices are keeping on target with the learning, so actually putting in their hours, doing the learning, having conversations with them to see how they're getting on, check in with them regularly, check in with the provider as well. So ultimately as well, if there's any concerns or issues, you might not necessarily feel capable, you know, or confident going direct to the apprentice, but you have us there as a provider. And, you know, ultimately that's the same with bringing on anyone new into a business or working with any younger person in a business, apprentice or not. You need to be doing those things to make it successful.
One of the biggest things I've just realised I've missed out with the cost as well is that there's a big tax incentive from the government to put people through apprenticeships, whether you're hiring new or whether you're using it for CPD purposes. Anyone under the age of 25, national insurance, it's wiped off the wages.
Yeah.
So even when that goes up every April or whatever, it's still the same case as it stands.
Yeah. Well, we just had the budget and that's been increased, the NI contributions anyway. So that is another, you know, that's a financial incentive.
That's
for
what I mean.
Businesses. Yeah.
And that's people who already work for as long as they're under 25.
Yeah.
Want with the latest digital skill set, put them through an apprenticeship. It's one of the best things you could do. Because another thing, one of the common misconceptions with apprenticeships, it has to be all hands-on. It's always hands-on stuff because they're the most common ones. With us in the digital sector, there's so many different apprenticeships. So with us, we've got your data technician, which, as I already said basically at the start, that is one that can work in any office. Data entry, spreadsheets, data cleansing. As long as they're pulling data from different sources, it fits. So that's basically any office. But then you go on your data analyst, someone who's going to really manipulate your data, visualizations.
So for example, we'll have data analysts that work in the NHS, and you probably wouldn't think that's a role they would go into, but they actually look at, you know, the safety of patients, what the A&E, you know, when it's busiest, you know, what the reasons were, and they're using that data within, you know, the back office of the NHS then to improve patient outcomes. So
that brings you on to then your business analyst who's there to improve efficiencies and cost reduction. So if we are staying on the NHS, I know some of our apprentices, they've improved patient wait times and then looked at the systems they're using. Is this the fastest system we can be using? With this, you've got your multi-channel marketers who look at all forms of marketing for you. You've got your content creators, which obviously you're much more creative, your graphic designers, videographers. And then finally, for digital infrastructure, you've got your digital support technician, where it can, as long as it's for a ticketing desk, any software or hardware issues, so whether it's fire alarms, CCTV, all sorts of technology. Then ICT, it can cover telecoms, it can cover networks, it can cover cabling, it can just be your general computer support.
So a wide range of different roles apprentices can undertake, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a digital first business. It's you know, this, as I said, you know, digital is in every role to some extent.
Just whether they're putting a focus on it, and they should do, because it's 2024.
Yes,
it's the time to get digital. But I think we've basically covered every point that an employer would need to know. I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in. My name's Sebastian Fitzharris.
Thank you. I'm Daniel at NowSkills, Managing Director.
Thanks very much for tuning in.